The day I realized my neighbor in apartment 3B had been dead for 3 weeks, I also realized something much worse. Someone else had been living in there the whole time. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you're here with me today. Before we get into this story, and trust me, this one is going to mess you up, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Seriously, I love seeing all the different cities and countries you guys are in. And how are you doing today? I hope you're somewhere safe and comfortable because this story it's a lot. Oh, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button right now. You don't want to miss the rest of this story. It gets so much darker. I promise you've never heard anything like this before. Okay, let's get into it. My name is Maya. I'm 24 years old, and I live in Chicago in a cheap apartment building on the south side. When I say cheap, I mean cheap. The kind of place where the elevator breaks every other week and nobody fixes it. Where you can hear your neighbors through the walls. Where the landlord hasn't updated anything since like 1985. But it's all I could afford on my waitress salary, so I dealt with it. I moved into apartment 3C last September. It was a studio, basically one room with a tiny bathroom and a kitchen that was just a hot plate and a mini fridge. But it was mine. The apartment next to me, 3B, was occupied by an old man named Mr. Chun. I met him on my first day when I was moving in. He was tiny, maybe 70 years old. He barely spoke English, just nodded and smiled when I said hello. He was carrying a bag of groceries. What I noticed right away was that his door was open. Not wide open, just cracked. Like he'd gone in and hadn't bothered to close it all the way. Your door, I said, pointing. He looked at it and shrugged. Said something in Chinese. Smiled. Went inside, but still didn't close it. Weird, I thought. But not my business. Over the next few weeks, I noticed Mr. Chin's door was always like that. Open just a crack. Maybe 2 or 3 inches. I'd walk past it every day going to and from work. Morning, night, didn't matter. Always open. Sometimes I'd hear the TV on inside. Sometimes it was quiet. But always that door was cracked. One time I asked another neighbor about it. A woman named Beth who lived on the second floor. Oh yeah, Mr. Chin does that, she said. He's done it for years. I think he's lonely or something. Wants to hear people in the hallway. Makes him feel less alone. That made sense. Sad, but it made sense. So I stopped thinking about it. Then in early November, I started noticing something else. A smell. It started small. Just a weird odor in the hallway. Like old garbage or something rotting. I figured it was the trash chute. The building was old and gross, so I didn't think much of it. But it got worse. By the second week of November, the smell on the 3rd floor was bad. Like really bad. Like something died bad. Other tenants started complaining. I heard Beth talking to the landlord on the phone. It's disgusting up here, she was saying. You need to send someone to check the walls or the pipes or something. Something is dead. The landlord said he'd send someone. He didn't. The smell kept getting worse. It was a Tuesday morning around 7 a.m. when I was leaving for my shift to the diner. I walked past Mr. Chin's apartment. His door was open like always. But this time, the smell was really strong right there. Right at his door. I stopped. I hadn't seen Mr. Chun in. Actually, I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen him. A couple weeks maybe? The TV was on inside. I could hear it. Some news program in Chinese. Mr. Chun. I called out. No answer. I knocked on the door frame. Mr. Chun? You okay? Nothing. The smell was so bad my eyes were watering. I knew I should call someone. The landlord. The police. Someone. But something made me push the door open. Just a little. Just enough to look inside. The apartment was dark except for the TV glow. I could see into the living room. Mr. Chin was sitting in his recliner facing the TV. Mr. Chun, I said, softer now. He didn't move. I knew, but I had to be sure. I pushed the door open wider and stepped inside, holding my shirt over my nose and mouth. The smell was horrible. I walked closer to the recliner. Mr. Chun was dead. I've been dead for a while. His skin was gray and sunken. His mouth was open. His eyes were open but cloudy. I should have run. I should have screamed. I should have called 911 right then. But I didn't, because I saw something that made my blood turn to ice. There was a cup of water on the table next to Mr. Chun. A cup that hadn't been there before. A cup with condensation on the outside, meaning it was fresh. Next to it was a plate with crumbs on it. Recent crumbs. and the TV remote was on the arm of the couch, not near Mr. Chen's chair. Someone had been here. Recently. Someone had been living here with Mr. Chen's dead body. I backed away slowly, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would break my ribs. That's when I heard it. A sound from the bedroom. A creak, like someone shifting their weight. Someone was still here. I ran. I didn't close the door. I didn't look back. I just ran down the hallway, down the stairs, out of the building. I called 911 from the street, my hands shaking so bad I could barely hold the phone. There's a dead body, I told them, and I think someone's been living with it. The operator asked me questions, but I couldn't focus. I kept looking up at the third-floor windows, expecting to see someone looking down at me. The police came. Ambulance. Fire trucks. The whole building was evacuated. They found Mr. Chen. They confirmed he'd been dead for about 3 weeks. But here's the thing. Here's the part that still keeps me up at night. They also found evidence that someone had been living there with the body. Food wrappers from the past few days. Dirty dishes. A sleeping bag in the bedroom closet. But no one was there when the police searched the apartment. Whoever it was had left. Disappeared. And I started thinking, how long had they been there? What were they doing? Why? And the worst question of all, did they know I'd looked inside? The police questioned me for 3 hours that first day. They wanted to know everything. When was the last time I saw Mr. Chen alive? Did I hear anything unusual? Did I see anyone going in or out of his apartment? I told them the truth. I hadn't seen Mr. Chen in weeks. I hadn't heard anything weird. And no, I never saw anyone else. But his door was always open, I said. Just a crack. Always. The detective, a tired-looking woman named Detective Harris, wrote that down. Always open, she repeated. For how long? Since I moved in. September. So like 2 months. And in those 2 months, you never thought to check on him? I felt guilty immediately. I thought he liked it that way. Another tenant told me he was lonely and liked hearing the hallway sounds. Detective Harris didn't say anything, just wrote more notes. They told me I could go home, but not to leave town. Like I was on TV or something. I didn't go home. I went to my friend's apartment in a different neighborhood and slept on her couch. No way was I going back to that building. The next day, the news had the story. Elderly man found dead in apartment. Possible squatter situation. They didn't use Mr. Chen's name. Just said he was a 73-year-old resident who lived alone. The news showed my building. Showed police tape. Showed neighbors being interviewed. Beth was on TV saying, "We all smelled something but nobody checked. We all failed him." She was crying. I turned off the TV and tried to sleep, but couldn't. I kept thinking about that fresh cup of water. Those crumbs. The sleeping bag in the closet. Someone had been living there for weeks. Just existing. In an apartment with a dead body. What kind of person does that? 2 days later, Detective Harris called me. "We need you to come down to the station," she said. "We have some questions." My stomach dropped. Am I in trouble? No. We just need your help identifying something. At the station, they took me to a small room with a computer. "We pulled security footage from a convenience store near your building," Detective Harris said. "We think the squatter was buying food there. We need to know if you recognize this person." She played the video. It showed a person in a black hoodie and baggy jeans walking into the store. The footage was grainy, and the person kept their head down, but I could see it was a man. White guy, maybe 30s. He bought chips, energy drinks, and sandwiches. Paid cash. Left. Ever seen him? Detective Harris asked. I watched again. And again. "I don't know," I said. "Maybe? I see a lot of people in the building." "Look at his walk," she said. "The way he moves. Anything familiar?" I watched one more time. There was something about the way he hunched his shoulders. "Play it again," I said. She did. That's when I saw it. A small detail. The guy had a keychain hanging from his belt loop. It had a little red tag on it. "Wait," I said. "Go back." She rewound. "That keychain. Can you zoom in?" She couldn't zoom much. The video quality was bad. But I could see enough. That red tag. I'd seen it before. "Oh my God," I whispered. "What?" "There's a guy in my building. I don't know his name, but he has that same keychain. I've seen him in the laundry room." Detective Harris leaned forward. "What does he look like?" "White, 30s, brown hair, always wears hoodies. He lives on the second floor, I think. Maybe 2A or 2B. You're sure about the keychain? Yeah, it's from some pizza place. Marco's Pizza or something. I noticed it because I worked there in high school. Detective Harris left the room quickly. I sat there alone for 10 minutes. When she came back, she had another detective with her. The building manager gave us a list of tenants, she said. There's a man in 2, a named Kyle Preston, 32 years old. Does that sound right? I don't know his name, but yeah, that could be him. We're going to pick him up for questioning. I need you to stay here until we do. Why? Because if this is our guy, he lives 1 floor below you. And we don't know if he knows you saw inside that apartment. My blood went cold. They brought Kyle Preston in 4 hours later. I watched through a one-way mirror as they questioned him. He looked normal, just a regular guy. Tired, a little scruffy. Kyle, we need to ask you about your neighbor, Mr. Chun in 3B, Detective Harris said. Who? The man who died in the apartment above yours. Kyle shrugged. I heard about that. Sad. When's the last time you saw him? I don't know. I don't really know my neighbors. Have you ever been in his apartment? No. Why would I? Security footage shows someone matching your description buying food near the building multiple times in the past few weeks. Someone with a Marco's Pizza keychain. Kyle's face didn't change. Lots of people have those keychains. We found a sleeping bag in Mr. Chen's closet. We're testing it for DNA right now. Want to tell us anything before those results come back? Kyle was quiet for a long time. Then he smiled. Actually smiled. I want a lawyer, he said. They arrested him right there. Charged him with trespassing and abuse of a corpse. Detective Harris told me to go home. Said it was safe now. But I didn't feel safe. Because I kept thinking about that smile. Kyle Preston had been living in an apartment with a dead body for 3 weeks. And when he got caught, he smiled. What kind of person does that? And more importantly, why? Kyle Preston's DNA was all over Mr. Chen's apartment. On the sleeping bag. On dishes. On the couch. On the TV remote. He'd been living there, no doubt about it. But why remained a mystery? Until his lawyer made a statement. I was at work when I got a text from Beth, my neighbor. Turn on the news. Channel 5. Now. I asked my manager if I could take a quick break and pulled up the news on my phone. Kyle Preston's lawyer was giving a press conference. My client, Kyle Preston, deeply regrets the events that have transpired, the lawyer was saying. However, I want to make clear that he did not harm Mr. Chun in any way. Mr. Chun died of natural causes, a heart attack, according to the coroner. My client discovered the body and, due to circumstances in his personal life, made the poor decision to remain in the apartment rather than report it immediately. A reporter shouted a question. Why would he do that? Mr. Preston was facing eviction from his own apartment. He had nowhere else to go. He panicked. He made a terrible choice. But he is not a murderer. He is simply a desperate man who made a desperate decision. I felt sick. He was being evicted, so he just moved in with a dead body? What the hell? Over the next few days, more details came out. Kyle Preston had been late on rent for 3 months. The landlord was taking him to court. He was about to be thrown out. His family had cut him off years ago. He had no friends in Chicago, no support system. One day in October, he'd gone upstairs to ask Mr. Chun if he could borrow sugar or something. Found the door open, went inside, and found Mr. Chun dead in his chair. Instead of calling 911, Kyle Preston saw an opportunity. Mr. Chun lived alone, had no family, no visitors. Who would miss him? So Kyle started living there. At night, mostly, he'd go to his own apartment during the day when the landlord might come by. But at night, he'd sleep in Mr. Chen's closet. He'd watch TV, eat food from Mr. Chen's kitchen, use Mr. Chen's bathroom, all while Mr. Chen's body sat in the recliner, decomposing. He talked to him, Detective Harris told me during one of our follow-up conversations. Kyle told us he would have conversations with the body, would tell Mr. Chun about his day, would watch TV with him. I felt like I was going to throw up. He's insane, I said. No, Detective Harris said. He's not. That's the scary part. Psychiatrists evaluated him. He's completely sane. He knew what he was doing was wrong. He just didn't care. Or he was desperate enough not to care. The building manager didn't renew my lease. Actually, most people in the building left after the news broke. Who wants to live in a place where something like that happened? I found a new apartment across town. More expensive, but I didn't care. I needed to get away from that building. Before I moved out, I did something I probably shouldn't have done. I want to see Mr. Chin's apartment one more time. The police tape was gone. The door was locked now. But the building manager had given me permission to take anything of Mr. Chin's that I wanted before his stuff got thrown out. He has no family to claim it, the manager said. Take whatever you want. I didn't want anything. I just wanted to see the apartment one more time. To understand. Inside, everything looked normal. Clean even. The police had cleaned up. The recliner where Mr. Chin died was still there. I couldn't look at it. I walked through the small apartment. Living room, kitchen, bedroom. In the bedroom closet, I could see where the sleeping bag had been. There was an imprint on the carpet. Kyle had slept here, right here, for weeks. I opened the bedside table drawer. Inside were photos of Mr. Chan, with people I assumed were his family. His wife, maybe. His kids. They were smiling in the photos. Happy. Had they known he was here all alone? Did they care? Or had they abandoned him? Just like Kyle's family had abandoned him? I found Mr. Chin's journal in the kitchen drawer. It was in Chinese mostly, but some pages had English words. Enough for me to get the idea. He was lonely. So lonely. Another day. No one came. One entry said, "My son, he busy. He not call. I leave door open. Maybe someone talked to me." I sat on the kitchen floor and cried. Mr. Chun had left his door open because he was desperate for human connection. Any connection. And the only person who'd given him attention was a man who'd lived with his dead body. Kyle Preston pleaded guilty to abuse of a corpse and was sentenced to 2 years in prison. 2 years. That's it. For living with a dead man for 3 weeks. The judge said Kyle's difficult circumstances were a mitigating factor. I watched the sentencing on TV. Kyle stood there in his orange jumpsuit and didn't say anything. Didn't apologize. Didn't explain. Just stood there. And when they let him away, I swear I saw him smile again. That same weird smile from the interrogation room. I moved out the next week. Took only what I needed. Left everything else. I wanted no reminders of that building, that hallway, that door that was always open. But I kept one thing. Mr. Chin's journal. I don't know why. Maybe to remember him. Maybe to remind myself that loneliness can kill you just as surely as a heart attack can. Or maybe because I wanted to remember that sometimes the scariest monsters aren't the ones who hurt people. They're the ones who just don't care. 6 months after I moved out, I got a call from Detective Harris. "Maya, I need to tell you something," she said. "You might want to sit down." I was in my new apartment, finally starting to feel safe again. That sentence made my stomach drop. What happened? Kyle Preston was released early. Good behavior. He's out. Already? But he was supposed to serve 2 years. He served 8 months. The system is messed up, I know. But that's not why I'm calling. Then why? Because he's asking about you. My blood turned to ice. What do you mean he's asking about me? He contacted his lawyer. Wanted to know your name. Where you moved to. The lawyer reported it to us immediately, which is good. But Maya, we think you should be careful. Careful how? Is he threatening me? No direct threats. But he's obsessed with the case. Keeps talking about how you're the reason he got caught. The lawyer says Kyle feels like you invaded his space when you looked in the apartment. I couldn't breathe. His space? He was living with a dead body. I know. Rational people know that. But Kyle doesn't think rationally when it comes to this. We filed for a restraining order on your behalf. He's not allowed within 500 feet of you. But I wanted you to be aware. After she hung up, I sat in my new apartment and looked at the door. My door, which I always kept locked. Always. 2 weeks passed. Nothing happened. I started to relax. Started to think maybe Kyle had moved on. Maybe he'd forgotten about me. Then I came home from work one night and found something on my doorstep. A cup of water. Just a cup. Clear plastic. Full of water. Like the one I'd seen on Mr. Chen's table. I called Detective Harris immediately. "Don't touch it," she said. "I'm sending officers right now." The police came. They took the cup. Tested it for fingerprints. Nothing. Clean. Could have been anyone, the officer said. Could have been a neighbor playing a prank. But I knew better. Kyle knew where I lived. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next night. Or the next. I kept thinking about that cup. That deliberate, creepy message. "I know where you are." My friend Emma said I should move again. Maybe leave Chicago entirely. "He's obsessed with you," she said. "This isn't going to stop." But I was tired of running. Tired of being scared. I decided to do something about it. I contacted Kyle's lawyer. I want to talk to him, I said. Absolutely not. That's a terrible idea. I don't care. Set it up. I want to meet him face to face. The lawyer tried to talk me out of it. Detective Harris tried to talk me out of it. Emma tried to talk me out of it. But I was done being a victim. 2 days later, I met Kyle Preston at a coffee shop in a very public place with police nearby. He looked different, skinnier, paler, but that smile was the same. "Hello, Maya," he said, like we were old friends. "Why did you leave that cup at my door?" "What cup?" "Don't play games." "You know what cup?" He took a sip of his coffee. "I wanted you to understand something." "Understand what?" "What it's like to feel watched, to feel invaded. You came into a space that wasn't yours. You saw things you weren't supposed to see. That was a crime scene. You were living with a dead body." "That was my home," he said, and for the first time his smile dropped. "For 3 weeks, that was the only place I felt safe. The only place I felt like I belonged. And you took that from me." I stared at him in disbelief. "You're insane. Mr. Chun was a human being who died alone. And you just used him. Used his apartment. Like he was nothing." "He was nothing," Kyle said coldly. "He was already gone. His family didn't care. Nobody cared. At least I kept him company." "You're sick. And you're self-righteous," Kyle shot back. "You think you're a hero? You're not. You're just a nosy neighbor who couldn't mind her own business." I stood up. "Stay away from me. If you come near me again, if you leave anything else at my door, I will make sure you go back to prison for a very long time." Kyle's smile returned. "I'm not going to hurt you, Maya. I just wanted you to know something." "Know what?" "That I'm always going to remember you. Every day. Every moment. You're the person who ruined my life. And I'm never going to forget that." He stood up and walked out. That was 4 months ago. I haven't seen Kyle Preston since. No more cups. No more messages. Nothing. Detective Harris says he moved to Indiana. Got a job at a warehouse. Seems to be staying out of trouble. But I still don't feel safe. Because I know he's out there. Thinking about me. Remembering. And I know that people like Kyle, people who can live with death and not care, those people don't just disappear. They wait. So here's what I learned from all this. First, always check on your neighbors. Especially the lonely ones. Mr. Chin died alone, and that's partly because nobody cared enough to notice. Second, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. I should have called the police the first time I smelled something bad. And third, some people are just broken in ways we can't fix. Kyle Preston isn't a monster from a movie. He's just a man who lost his humanity somewhere along the way. And that's the scariest kind of monster, the kind that looks normal. I still have Mr. Chin's journal. I read it sometimes to remind myself that loneliness kills. And I always keep my door locked. Because somewhere out there, Kyle Preston is living his life. And I'm living mine. And I just have to hope our paths never cross again. If this story disturbed you, good. It should, because it's based on true events that happen more often than you'd think. If you found this story compelling, please hit that subscribe button. I share true crime and horror stories every week. And trust me, they only get darker from here. Stay safe out there. Lock your doors. Check on your neighbors. And remember, the scariest monsters are the ones who look just like us. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.